Okay, so this is my focus group for crime dramas. So my first question is, what genre conventions do you think of when you think of crime dramas?
Maybe dark atmospheres, so sort of typical grimy, maybe gangster film-esque.
Low-key lighting.
Yeah.
Low-key lighting, dark mise-en-scène, blood, like
Horror. A load of weapons.
Yeah.
But it is a...
but like even like focusing on like the little props being weapons, you know, like how they do in the Dexter title sequence.
Yeah, that's interesting. Are there any conventions that you disagree with or think are too overdone?
Maybe the idea of a dishevelled sort of detective.
Yeah, I think typical sort of police roles, like extreme focus on, I don't know, a police station is a bit overdone for me, but yeah, I think it's so common in any crime drama.
I quite like when the protagonist is more of a citizen and that they're trying to figure out because they've discovered it, not because they've seen it.
Sort of like someone who wasn't actually involved in the crime or isn't involved in law enforcement, but
Okay,
they're sort of
outside,
dragged in,
like
maybe
the
dragged
vigilante.
into it, or they feel
Yeah.
inclined to do that.
And like, because normally I think victims are very one-dimensional and they only serve the purpose of being a victim, yeah. So I think having that victim be more either high profile or, you know, the protagonist of the first episode, perhaps, and you think that the show is about them and then they are sort of the lambs of the slaughter.
Right, so you think that maybe when a crime drama distances itself from sort of typical conventions, it sort of adds individualism and makes it more interesting?
Yeah,
maybe?
definitely. Yeah.
Okay. So the next question is, do you think that comedy should ever be a quality of a crime drama, or do you think that it should never be included?
I think if the crime drama is dealing with quite serious topics, then I think it's quite inappropriate.
Yeah.
Whereas if it's that the protagonist is a comedic character, then I think it's
Like again with Dexter, there's sort of a lot of elements of comedy, despite the kind of very serious atmosphere, because you're following someone who doesn't actually view what they're doing as particularly wrong, because they're justifying it. So there's a place for the comedy, but it's only really occasional whenever there isn't actual action
definitely.
happening.
Yeah, I think that using comedy not for comedic relief for the audience, but as a personality trait of the antagonist, I think is like really cool.
That's interesting. So would you prefer to follow the criminal, victim or detective as the lead character, and why?
Personally, I'd say criminal.
Same.
I really like the focus point being the antagonist. I think, I don't know, I think you get such a deeper insight into the crimes, but also there's more anticipation, not are they going to commit the crime, but are they going to get caught?
And it
Yeah,
doesn't
like
always-
sorry.
No, it doesn't always portray them as the antagonist if it's from their viewpoint, because there might be so many reasons that have led them to commit the crimes.
Right.
And it's like a fresh view on it, rather than the sort of tried and true idea of a police officer or a detective that just has to go out and catch whoever's committing crimes.
Yeah.
So you mentioned sort of having intel into the antagonist. Do you think that sort of knowing the psychology behind what they're doing sort of adds something to the crime drama that sort of makes it unique?
Yeah, I think it makes the crimes more interesting. I think it gives a weird, you know, twisted justification of why they're doing it, or it might completely persuade you to their side.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, you kind of get a more, I think the audience can be more empathetic when it is that case as well, the elements, I agree.
Would you prefer to see traditional characters that have slight twists to them, or would you prefer to see complete countertypes to every single stereotype?
Countertypes.
I don't
Maybe
know.
not to the point of being overdone. I feel like a mix would be good, so you can see typical character tropes, but they're different enough that they feel new and unique.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like it could be interesting to have stereotypical characters that have slight twists to them. I think because it can be such a good tool of leading the audience with one way of thinking and then going, but actually no, it's this.
I feel like a lot of the criminals are always men, So I think it would be more interesting to see more women being more interested.
Do you think that graphic violence is an important part of a crime drama, or can the implications of past violence, for example, maybe during an investigation, you can see sort of a violent act that occurred in a crime scene? Do you think that's more effective than actually seeing it happen?
I think it depends on point of view. I think if you're focusing from the antagonist point of view, then seeing the graphic violence makes more sense in terms of narrative, I think. But like, I don't know that seeing the violence is integral to a crime drama. I think it's more the insinuation. And then if you're following the law enforcement side, I think if you're following the law enforcement, it makes more sense to see the crime scene after the crime occurred.
Right.
Yeah, because then you've seen the lead. If you're following the antagonist, then I feel like it's more impactful to see the actual violence because you've seen the lead up to it and what's gone into it before it sort of breaks into the actual violence. But yeah, from another perspective, it probably makes more sense to see it from the other way.
So the final question, what is your favourite crime drama and what's your favourite quality about it that makes it sort of an individual creative piece?
I quite like Vigil because of how many subplots there are, but it never fails to focus on the main plot. And like I said before, there are so many counter types, but also still stereotypes, and it just makes it overall a quite interesting series.
Yeah, I agree. It also has such completely different environments to what you'd usually see in a crime drama because it focuses on military environments that you don't usually see the perspective of characters on. So a submarine, military bases, that type of thing. Because the public generally doesn't go there, so it feels like alien territory that you're exploring.
There was a crime drama film that I watched on Netflix called Woman of the Hour with Anna Kendrick. And that was incredible because not only was it a true story, but I don't know, it was just told exceptionally well from so many different points of view, and you sort of wonder how it all strings together completely at the end, or you have this sort of insider knowledge, which means you don't want one character to go and meet another. It's sort of building anticipation in like a variety of different ways.
I quite like Lucifer because I think the mix of like potentially like fiction with reality.
Yeah.
I just think of Lucifer now. Sorry. The fiction and reality is a really interesting twist on a drama, crime.
Yeah, nice. Thank you.
Okay.